Hello, everybody. How many of us have been on Zoom calls with Westerners and then NEPA takes the light? Embarrassing. And then in some instances, people will say, hey, we understand it's Nigeria. And while that is something we roll with, we roll with the punches, we allow it happen. We build resilience, we build fortitude to be able to handle some things. But I believe that we deserve more, we deserve better, right? And that's why we're together today, isn't it? We're together today for an upturn, right? And so I'll be sharing with us very shortly about Africa's new frontier, which I believe are underserved university communities. In the 1960s, at the eve of the 1960s, John F. Kennedy actually, spoke to the American public and told them about a frontier that was ahead of them. And he spoke about the fact that the 1960s were a frontier that they needed to, engage both for the hopes it preferred or it offered, and as well to mitigate the threats that it also, put forward. And one of the things about his speech to the American public was the fact that he said, before the 1960s were over, America was to put a man on the moon. And this they did within a decade. He didn't live to see it, but he had actually presented a vision for a people. He had presented a vision that captured the public imagination. And today I want to share with you another vision that is able to capture the public imagination as I take us on the ride. This is Ogbomoso. How many of us, if we were coming from Lagos, we most likely have passed through this stretch of road. Ogbomoso has been in existence for as far back as we can remember. Ogbomoso remains in the divide between a fully developed city and a town. However, Ogbomoso has potentials for development beyond imagination. It is a secondary city, and I will show us something shortly. 46.9% of the 55% of dwellers in urban areas in Africa are actually found in secondary cities that are made up of about 300,000 to 500,000 people. That is a small number compared to Lagos or to Ibadan or to Abuja or to Kano, which are actually major cities. But the interesting thing about these cities, these secondary cities, is the fact that they have the greatest potential for scale and impact. Whereas resources are focused more on primary cities like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Benin, and let's say Kaduna. How many of us, schooled in Akungba? Anybody here? Okay, Ogbomoso. Good. How many of us want to remain in Ogbomoso? The answer now. Interesting. The reason why people want to move from places like this is because the prospects they see of cities like Lagos are far much more than that of cities like Ogbomoso and places like Ikere-Ekiti and places like Ede and those places. But the truth is that according to Daniel Petra, they discovered that there was more potential in secondary cities because of the massive challenges that these cities have. So I'm going to show you the Chinese character. The Chinese character for crisis is made up of two characters. One is danger and the other is opportunity. So wherever you see deprivations and danger and challenges, you also see at the same time opportunity for impact and scale. So Africa's secondary cities have both the challenges and the possibilities or the opportunities. Number one, they are underserved. Number two, they are marginalized. But number three, they have opportunities for a lot of development within a short period of time. If you are in Lagos and you decide to transform Lagos, you will find you have a mountainous task before you, because Lagos is already formed. Lagos has already had people that have shaped its history and its landscape. But places like Ogbomoso, like Oyo, like Osogbo, well, Osogbo is already, formed as well, and is still being formed. But places like Ede, those places are compact in size. Their population sizes allow you to do a little thing in quotes, but which has outsized impact. The same things, if you were to do them in Lagos, wouldn't have any tangible impact on the landscape. What do these secondary cities need? I've been able to identify 3 things, founded upon 2 things. Number 1 is they need transformative vision. Number 2, they need visionary leadership. And number 3, they need mission-driven resources, which are all anchored to place over a long period of time. These particular factors are the things that are necessary to transform underserved cities in Africa to become powerhouses economically, socially, and in other ways. So, if you look at these pictures, we have Ogbomoso on the left, and we have a picture of a very wonderful city on the right. I got this picture of Singapore to contrast with that of Ogbomoso. And I want to tell you that actually, it is possible to transform Ogbomoso to this in a short period of time if all the ingredients I've mentioned are in place. Is it possible? Okay, you're already catching the faith I am, right? Do good. Now imagine with me. This is Ogbomoso. Can we all say this is Ogbomoso? The next slide. Now, LAUTECH is in Ogbomoso. And LAUTECH is made up of about 35,000 students. That's a huge mass of intellectual capital resident in this particular city, but which has yet to be unleashed as it should be. MIT, which has about 4,000 undergraduates, about 4,000, 5,000 undergraduates, has been able to harness the human capital to do amazing things over a period of time. But I want to show you that the ingredients I mentioned earlier are the things that can transform Ogbomoso into that picture of Singapore I showed you. Now, visionary leadership for the city. That's the first thing. Now, I use this picture not even on a religious basis, but because we have a proof of somebody who could turn a wasteland into a city that hasn't had interrupted power supply for as long as the city has been founded, which is Canaan. And the person is Bishop David Oyedepo. Right in Nigeria, where we say things do not work, right? I was in Unity Lab with a young man, many years ago. I took him for his post-UTL. And then there was a zebra crossing. And then some people wanted to cross the zebra crossing. In Unity Lab, it's a university. Some people wanted to cross the zebra crossing. As the lady wanted to cross, the other person just dragged her back and said, "Hey, this is Nigeria." I've been in other countries of the world, and I've been able to walk across zebra crossings without any iota of fear. But the same thing obtains in Canaan land. You actually follow the rules. Everybody follows the regulations. There is water supply that is uninterrupted. Now, these things are found because there was visionary leadership in place. So every underserved university community, if they can have visionary leadership, not one person, let's say 20, let's say 30, let's say 40 people who carry a vision for their community to see it transformed. Next. Number 2, we have the ground zero for innovation. How many people know CCO? How many people know CCO? Good. A number of people know CCO. A number of years ago, just about 11 years ago, Nigeria didn't have a thriving tech ecosystem. The players in the tech sector were in silos, isolated from one another, until CCO was founded by Bosun Tijani and Femi Longe, right in the heart of Lagos, in Yawa. And from that location, they began to pull in students from Unilab and LASU and began to expose them to tech, backing them with the resources they needed. And before we knew it, the tech ecosystem exploded in Nigeria. And right now, within just a decade, we have unicorns in Nigeria. And some of them were actually formed within CCO. That is what the presence of ground zeros for innovation, tech hubs, innovation hubs, that is what it can do in underserved university community. Mission-driven resources. How many people know that you can actually build an airport by the donations of citizens of a city, of a community? This happened in Imo State The first airport in Imo State was built by the contribution of indigenes of that land. On the left, you would see a snapshot of the original document where the donations of each member of that community was recorded. Some donated 50,000, some donated 10,000, some donated 100,000, some donated 1,000 naira. But when these resources were pulled together for Imo State's sake, an airport was brought up without any help from the federal government or even from the state government. And it was named the Sam Mbakwe International Airport. This is where resources that have a mission and that are particularly anchored to a place come to play. So we've talked about visionary leadership, right? We've talked about a ground zero for what? Innovation, isn't it? And then we've talked about what? Mission-driven resources. But at the same time, did you discover that the first thing we talked about was a university? Because the university continually has human resources on a non-stop basis. You can be sure that the presence of a university will always allow you to have access to the brightest minds, the best minds that the country can ever put forward. And so when you have a university in an underserved community, all you now need is to have visionary leadership in place, number one, right? Then you have what? A ground zero for innovation, a convergence point for the innovators in that community. Then number three, you have resources that are specifically meant for that community and for its emergence and development. Now, the question I have for you is, could this be a promotion again? Do you believe this could be a promotion now? Next slide. Could this be Ikere-Ekiti? Ikere-Ekiti has a university right now, right? So if any community in Nigeria which is underserved, apart from Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Benin, Kaduna, every other location that has a population of between 300,000 to 500,000 people, the only thing they need first is to have a university or an higher institution. And then after that, what you now need is what? Visionary what? Leadership. Number two, a ground zero for what? Innovation. And then number three, what? Mission-driven. And then this could be Ikere-Ekiti. Now, in the next slide, I would want you to actually engage with me, because most of us, or a number of us, must have come from some of these kind of communities. I'm glad that Tunde is around here, because your work was anchored to a place, Oshodi, first of all. And because it was anchored to a place, it was visionary leadership towards Oshodi. It was under the bridge as a convergence point where the resources were made available. And then you had goodwill coming around. And before we knew it, Oshodi became transformed and has become a reference point, which is now something that will be replicated across the nations of the world. I believe that's true. Exactly. There is no place that can resist the force of visionary leadership. There is no location that can resist the force of mission-driven resources. And there is no place that can resist the force of a convergence point. If you actually trace the experience of Silicon Valley, it is exactly what I've described that actually gave us Silicon Valley. There was a university, Stanford University. There was a vice chancellor that was brought to head Stanford University, who began to reach out to alumni to pull resources towards Stanford University. And then he bought a large expanse of land that was now coined the Valley, where new companies could spring up. And over a period of time, there was an emergence of a place that has now become the inspiration of many other ecosystems across the world. So next. So I want you to insert yours here. Where do you come from? Where are you from that is underserved? Can you insert yours here? Go ahead. Yes. Yes. What? Ogbodoroku. Where? In which state? Kwara State. Amazing. Any other person? Akoko Edo, right? Akoko in Ondo State. Thank you. Any other person? Ede in Osun State. Thank you. Any other person? What? Ijaras City. Ijarasi in Kwara State. Thank you. Any other person? Ejigbo in Osun State. Where? Ifo in Osun State. Any other person? One more person. Thank you. What? Elikaya in Port Harcourt. Thank you so much. So we see that if every one of us actually turns our gazes on underserved communities and do not see them as a threat or what's called forsaken places, but we see them as ground beds for opportunities and for transformation, in no time, within the next 10, 20 years, we'll have seen cities springing up all over Africa that actually rival Lagos, Abuja, but they will have better qualities of life. Because that's the challenge. In Lagos, the quality of life is very minimal. People are choked together, they are packed together, but because of the amenities, because of the opportunities, people keep on going there. But by the time we have the Ogbomoso, the Elikaya, the Ifo, the Ede, the Ikere, the Jibo, if we have all of them transformed, before we know it, there will be no pressure for you to move anywhere just because you're seeking opportunities. Rather, you'll be willing to stay where you found, you would enjoy it, and then you can change the world right from where you are. I leave you with this quote by Margaret Reed. It has been the motivating force for us at Ennovate Lab for the past 5 years. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.